Okay, so here's the thing. The title aside, my presentation tonight, really the underlying theme of my presentation tonight is my belief in the absolute power and necessity of nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit organizations, I've been blessed to lead professionally an art museum. On the personal side of things, I've had the privilege of serving on a number of nonprofit boards dealing with everything from healthcare to racial reconciliation. And this has in many ways given me a front row seat in the inner workings of nonprofits. It's also really allowed me to see the power for change and the incredible impact that these organizations can have. So tonight I want to talk to us really about three things. The first of which is why we fight. Why is it that nonprofit organizations fight the good fight every single day? The second thing is that I want to talk to us about why we fail. And third, I want to share with you a framework for how we might revision progress and create a new definition for measuring impact. So, why do we fight? Why is it that not art museums, but they're important. Why is it that nonprofit organizations are important? Well, I think it boils down to one simple truth. Nonprofit organizations exist, we all exist, to make the world a better place. Regardless of our mission, regardless of whatever particular filter we use or flavor we choose to apply to our objectives, at the end of the day, we exist to make the world a better place, and this is our shared responsibility. This is our shared responsibility. We exist to step in where the government cannot or will not. We exist to close the gap between where corporations, our financial institutions, even our legal system cannot, will not, in some cases, should not get involved. About 6 years ago, in 2004, I was reading an article. It was actually an interview with the Toronto-based designer Bryn Mawr. And it was an interview in the New York Times Magazine. And he was speaking about his work. And one of the things he said in reference to that was that he felt that it was a matter of defining a vision and then using that vision to distribute possibility. Now, I want to borrow that for this topic because I think it is precisely applicable. You could just, first of all, you could just very easily substitute mission for vision in that phrase. It's a matter of defining a mission and using that mission to distribute possibility. But it's this notion of the distribution of possibility which I think is so powerful and so eloquently underscores, again, our shared reason for being as nonprofit organizations. Because it is the distribution of this possibility which enables one to come into contact and experience works of arresting beauty or deep consequence via exposure to complex culture, whether that is art, dance, performance, music. It's this distribution of possibility which allows us to gain access to a warm meal, or access to health care, or the opportunity to put clothing on our children's back, or even to worship in a manner that we see fit. This is what nonprofit organizations do. This is why we exist, and I don't think it could be any more important. So, why do we fail? Well, I think there's two primary reasons that we tend to fail. The first of which is that we just forget something. Too often, nonprofit organizations forget that they are a means and not an end. We forget to remind ourselves every single day that we are a means and not an end. Stated differently, we allow ourselves to be distracted by what we are as opposed to what we do. Now, I think sometimes there's a little bit of self-importance that's thrown in there, lack of leadership, perhaps lack of governance in these things, but this, in my mind, is really where the troubles start. The second area is really the converse of that, and that's when nonprofit organizations forget to invest internally. They neglect the capacity-building initiatives that will allow them not only to sustain themselves, but ultimately strengthen themselves to have a much more productive future. Now, I'm here to tell you that navigating the perils between failure number one and failure number two is not always an easy task. And so about 5 years ago, I started to develop a matrix of goals and performance indicators that would inform my decision-making process, and hopefully the decision-making process of our team. And hence, the 5 I's were born. The first of the 5 I's is integrity. And this is all about earning the public trust. Now, I'm a visual guy, I work in an art museum, so you can see I've added some contextual cues to guide you through this process. These 5 numbers here represent Nelson Mandela's prison number. Hard to define anyone with more integrity than Nelson Mandela. But integrity for us is about earning the public trust. And I think we do this in 3 precise ways. The first, financial transparency. In this day and age, it probably has never been more important than it is right now. Secondly, ethical conduct. We have to ensure that we are being ethical in the way that we carry ourselves, whether that is internally, the way we treat our staff, our volunteers, or the way in which, from a governance standpoint, we're behaving ourselves. And third, it's about execution. Do you do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, and in the manner that you said you were going to do it? The second I is invention, and that's really developing what's next. This is a work by Marcel Duchamp. In 1915, actually a little bit earlier than that, he created the ready-mades. In one fell swoop, Duchamp completely challenged every preconception about what art was or what it could be. And his impact is still being felt nearly 100 years later by almost every single artist that's come after him. Developing what's next. This really means developing new programs and procedures to meet your organization and your community needs. It also means allowing yourself the latitude to investigate or revisit your mission, to develop responsible interpretations of what you're doing to keep it fresh and interesting and to impact your community in new ways. The third I is innovation. And this is really about all-around ongoing improvement. And I included an image of an iPhone here because it's a perfect example. We all had phones before, but all of a sudden, this coming on the scene, it changed everything. Probably one of the most important pieces of industrial design created in the last 20 years. But innovation is about how we make existing programs better. It's also about how we can become more efficient, and ultimately, how can we even do things more cost-effectively as an organization? The fourth I is inspiration. We must be compelling in every single thing that we do. Now, I've been talking a lot about this wonderful big family of altruistic endeavors and so forth, but at the end of the day, all of our organizations are fishing out of the same pond. I don't care if it's the next thank you letter you write or the next major program or community outreach initiative that you are doing as an organization, you must be compelling. You must inspire the community that you serve to support you and ultimately take some level of financial responsibility for your ongoing progress and impact. And then the fifth I is integration. And integration is really about spreading and ensuring that your mission and core values are integrated across the organization. At the same time, it's about creating relevance and accessibility for every segment of your constituency. This is when you're given an opportunity to make your mission the shared vision of the community. I've come to believe that if you revisit these 5 I's, if you use them day in and day out to create goals, but also to take your own temperature in terms of what you're doing as an organization, that at the end of the day, you will be left with measurable, sustainable, and growing impact. And at the end of all of it, that's probably the most important I of all. Thank you.